They came in silver, sleek ships, the kind that looked like whispers, quiet, elegant, with curves that bent light and arrogance so thick it almost leaked through the air. The Aliari, first contact had been their idea, not ours. They broadcasted their language through frequencies we hadn't even invented yet. And when we finally cracked their message, it wasn't a hello, it was a presentation. They wanted to impress us. It wasn't war. It wasn't invasion. Not yet. It was a condescending cosmic flex, as if we were cave dwellers looking at fire for the first time. They arrived above Earth in a single cruiser the size of Madagascar. It hovered silently over the Pacific, blotting out satellites and frying a few communication grids, just to remind us that yes, they could. Just like that, Aliari diplomats, tall, glowing, with fingers like silk, descended in smaller vessels that sparkled like diamonds falling from heaven. The UN scrambled to prepare. Every major power sent representatives. I was there too. Captain Elias Gran, Space Fleet Officer, United Earth Navy. No title felt big enough when you're standing across from creatures who could blink and create a storm in Jupiter's core. The first words they spoke translated roughly to, "You are a fascinating and spirited species. We offer you a place as observers, protected, preserved, and gently guided into relevance." Observers. Relevance. Like children seated at the back of the class while the adults played with the universe. We didn't respond immediately. Earth's leaders huddled in silence behind closed doors. I sat in the room, watching the Aliari smile politely, confidently, like tourists admiring a museum of extinct animals. They offered us tech samples, an orb that could terraform a room's gravity, a crystal that ran a city's power grid for 1,000 years, and a hand-sized drone that rebuilt broken limbs in real time. Gifts, they said. Proof of what we could have, if we behaved. I remember the smirk on Ambassador Leorin's face. He was the lead Aliari, skin like metallic pearl, voice like warm wind. "You've done well, for your limitations," he told us. "But kinetic, warfare and nuclear propulsion, child's play, still your enthusiasm is endearing." That was the moment, because what he didn't know, what none of the Aliari knew, was that we weren't showing our ships, not yet. We hadn't said a word about our military, not because we were weak, but because we'd learned long ago. Never show your teeth unless someone tries to bite. That bite came 2 weeks later. A mining rig orbiting Titan went dark, then another near Europa. Then a patrol ship vanished near the edge of Saturn's rings. No distress calls, no debris. Just silence. Cold, sudden silence. And a message broadcast on all military channels. "Your assets are unstable. We've relocated. Them, please do not interfere again." They didn't even try to hide it. They thought we'd thank them for cleaning up our mess. They thought they were doing us a favor. The response came in the form of steel. The United Earth Navy didn't speak. We deployed a battleship. UNS Vindicator was the first to break orbit, followed by the Hammerfall, Genesis, and Blood of Terror. These weren't elegant or sleek. They were brute force monsters, iron beasts fueled by the fury of a planet that's known nothing but conflict for thousands of years. And when they jumped into orbit beside the Aliari cruiser, the aliens finally paused. For the first time, they stopped smiling. Vindicator locked coordinates. Every railgun swiveled. The pulse cannons warmed. No threats were spoken, just silence and a countdown ping. 9, 8. The Aliari cruiser tried to retreat, but it was too late. We were already inside their range. They had shields meant to withstand asteroid storms, but nothing prepared them for tungsten rods accelerated to Mach 50. Nothing prepared them for 200 megaton thermonuclear warheads deployed with Earth's patented triple-stage ignition. The sky lit up. The cruiser cracked like glass. From Earth it looked like a second sunrise, and that was just the beginning. The debris rained down for hours. The Aliari cruiser didn't just break, it disintegrated. Panels, shards of white-hot alloy, scorched chunks of tech that even our best scientists couldn't name, scattered across Earth's upper atmosphere like cosmic confetti. But it wasn't victory. It was a warning shot. One we fired. One they never expected. The UN scrambled to manage the fallout. Half the planet panicked, thinking we'd just started an interstellar war. Maybe we had. But if the universe thought we were going to bow our heads and play the role of grateful primitives, they were dead wrong. We didn't start this. We just ended the first round. Admiral Sangha, commander of the UNS Hammerfall, stood silent in orbit, staring at the wreckage through the bridge window. "Do you think they'll retaliate?" someone asked. She didn't blink. "They already have. We're just waiting for the next move." We didn't have to wait long. Exactly 13 hours after the destruction of the Eliari cruiser, Earth's skies turned black. Not figuratively, literally. A shadow stretched over half the planet. Something massive slipped into orbit, blocking out sunlight over the Pacific and Western Europe. It was shaped like a crescent moon, but darker, slicker, like something grown rather than built. They called it the Architect Eliari High Command. No more smiles. No more gifts. Just silence and the deafening hum of a presence so massive it pulled at gravity itself. They didn't fire, didn't send a warning, just broadcast one line in that sickly, sweet voice we'd once thought beautiful. "You have wounded us. You will now learn the meaning of consequence." And then they vanished. Not the ship, them. Cities across the globe went dark. Communications jammed, satellites scrambled. We thought it was another EMP, but it was something worse. Psychological. Warfare. People began hallucinating, seeing strange shapes in mirrors, hearing whispers in sleep. Dreams turned into visions of planets burning, of screaming stars, of 1,000 species kneeling before the Eliari banner. Families tore each other apart. Some jumped from rooftops, swearing they were ascending. They didn't just bring war, they brought madness. Our scientists traced it to low-frequency pulses, something embedded in our water, our air, even our broadcast waves. Eliari tech wasn't just sleek and shiny. It was invasive. And it had already been inside our systems since first contact. But they underestimated something again. Us. See, humans have a unique relationship with madness. We don't run from it. We weaponize it. Operation Black Noise was greenlit. The idea, counter-psyop their frequency with something uniquely human. Chaos, metal, raw aggression. The result was a mix of screeching electromagnetic noise, violent sensory spikes, and yes, death metal broadcast at max volume across every global frequency. It didn't just block their signals, it hurt them. We caught the first glimpse of their weakness in New London. An Eliari diplomat collapsed mid-press conference, shrieking, as Slayer blared over every public channel. Their nerves weren't built for our kind of rage, for our noise. They'd tried to enter our minds. We invited them into a mosh pit. That's when Fleet Command made the boldest move in Earth's history: offense. We weren't just going to sit here waiting to be picked off. We were going to hit back. And we knew exactly where to strike. The Eliari staging ground was a lunar outpost they'd been building on the far side of the moon, quietly, subtly, before they made themselves known. They thought we hadn't noticed. We noticed. Enter. The UN's Revenant, a stealth dreadnought nobody outside the highest levels of command even knew existed. Powered by a prototype dark matter core, cloaked by adaptive plating, it could orbit inside a planet's atmosphere without being seen. Revenant. Launched at 0300 hours. Within 12 minutes it was in firing position. The moon lit up with the fury of a vengeful god. We destroyed their outpost, every single one of them. No survivors. And just like that, the game changed. We weren't the primitives anymore. We were the unpredictable, violent, clever species that didn't just fight back, we hit first, and suddenly the entire galaxy was watching. The moon burned for 3 days. A dull red glow hung in Earth's sky like a silent scar, a reminder that we'd shattered something sacred, at least to the Eliari, but to us, it was proof. Proof that we weren't just survivors. We were contenders. The Revenant returned to orbit without a scratch. No damage, no trace, a ghost of vengeance. And just like that, the silence ended. First came the whispers. Across the galaxy's diplomatic network, the Spire link, messages started pouring in. Not official ones. Hushed transmissions, coded pings, secret drops. Species we didn't even know existed were suddenly interested in Earth. some curious, some afraid, some hungry. Aeliari pride had taken a hit no one thought possible. Their cruiser vaporized, their psyops countered, their moon base wiped clean. They didn't speak to us again. But others did. The Torcan Syndicate were first. Insectoid, hive-minded, ruthless. They sent a delegation to Earth orbit under the guise of observation. Their ship looked like a skeletal wasp, bristling with barbed towers and twitching antennae. They requested a meeting. Admiral Sangha agreed. I was there, suited up, weapon holstered, eyes scanning every movement. Their leader, a creature that looked like a mantis dipped in obsidian, hissed through a translator sphere. The Aeliari are not gods. You proved that. We are looking for new alliances. You have potential, raw, undisciplined, but potential. They offered us tech. Not handouts like the Aeliari. Weapons grade, real deals, gravity blades, warp-threaded armor. Things we could reverse engineer, learn from, improve. The Torcan weren't allies. They were opportunists. But they feared the Aeliari, and fear makes strange friends. By month's end, we had received contact from 4 other species, the Velmari Ascendancy, who demanded we cease provoking the balance. The Rix Confederation, who wanted to buy Earth's weapons blueprints. The Ulari Seekers, who offered access to a shared galactic archive in return for a foothold on Mars and one unnamed entity. No visual, no translation, just static and coordinates burned into every screen on the UNS flagship. Admiral Sangha dismissed most of them, but she never dismissed the last one because the coordinates pointed to Proxima B, and that's where the Aeliari had gone. They weren't retreating, they were building something. We launched a scout drone into the system under heavy encryption, cloaked and shielded. It lasted 20 seconds, just enough time to transmit one blurry image back to Earth before it was atomized. What we saw was impossible. A Dyson ring, not complete, but in progress. Stretching across the upper orbit of Proxima B like a mechanical spiderweb, feeding off the star's energy, pulsing with red light, and in the center of it, a ship bigger than their cruiser, bigger than the architect, a flagship, a declaration. They called it Virol. Translated? Judgment. Our analysts went white reading the data. The power readings alone suggested it could destroy an entire solar system in one pass. This wasn't about conquest anymore. It was about punishment. They weren't going to invade. They were going to erase. We had weeks, maybe less. Fleet Command went into overdrive. Every ship was recalled. Every prototype was greenlit. Every black-budget project was dragged out of the shadows and thrown into the light. We stopped playing defense. We stopped playing offense. We started preparing for annihilation, but we weren't going to run. Not Earth, not humanity. We'd already cracked faster-than-light jump tech, but it was unstable, dangerous. Only one ship had ever tested. It had returned the Revenant. So we took a gamble. We built a new ship in 7 days, a monster, 4 kilometers long, lined with nuclear accelerators, EMP burst cores, and a quantum disruption cannon still in beta testing. We called it the UNS Leviathan. Its mission, suicide run if needed, intercept Virol, stop the Aeliari, end the war before it reached our soil. I was one of its command officers. We launched with no promise of return, and as we jumped through the veil of space into the burning light of Proxima, we saw them. Thousands of ships, all Aeliari, all armed, waiting for us. The moment the jump ended, alarms screamed across the UNS Leviathan. We didn't arrive in space. We arrived in a graveyard with pulse cannons, thousands of Aeliari ships positioned like they were waiting. Like they'd known we'd come, but they weren't attacking yet. They hovered in formation, forming a wide crescent around Virol, their new flagship. It was bigger up close, so massive it defied structure. It didn't look like it was built. It looked like it had grown out of the very sun, a fortress made of solar flesh and alien will, and inside it a heartbeat, something alive. Leviathan's bridge went silent, not out of fear, out of calculation. No one said it, but we all knew we wouldn't be going home, not all of us. Commander Raffi keyed the comms. Open transmission, all frequencies. There was no protocol anymore, just instinct. The message we sent was simple. We're not kneeling. A moment later they answered. Not with words, but visuals. A live feed from Earth. They were inside our systems again. Every broadcast tower, every network. And they showed us a countdown. 6 hours. That was the time until Viral finished charging its primary weapon. Estimated blast radius, 3 planets wide. They weren't going to conquer Earth. They were going to incinerate it. Admiral Sang-Ha came through our command channel. Her voice was calm, cold. Do what you were built for, Leviathan. You are humanity's fist. We moved. Leviathan charged forward, its hull humming with unstable jump cores feeding a prototype railgun the size of a city block. Around us, Earth's escort fleet broke formation, diving into the enemy's ranks like wolves among sheep. They weren't prettier than the Eliari ships. They didn't glow. They roared. Metal grinding, engines flaring like dragons in a vacuum. And for a while, it worked. We shredded their front line. One by one, their ships buckled under the brute force of tungsten payloads and atomic fire. Their shields weren't built for how we fought. Direct, violent, illogical. Eliari battled with precision. We fought with vengeance, but they adapted fast. Within minutes, their rear ships shifted tactics. They began to sink, hive-like formations that moved like a single organism. Their beam weapons changed color, shape, even pattern. We lost the UNS Atlas in a single volley, spliced in half by a beam that ignored every kind of matter shielding. We had. Then we saw it. Viral was moving. The structure shifted, unfolded, like a mechanical lotus blooming in space. At its center, a glowing orb spun violently, warping light around it. The cannon. They were ready to fire. Commander Raffi didn't blink. All power to the front. Brace. We ram that thing if we have to. Leviathan was fast, but not fast enough to dodge the universe's biggest middle finger. So we aimed straight for its heart. A suicide run, and then something strange happened. The Eliari fleet began pulling back. They were giving us a lane, a trap, a mistake. Didn't matter. We took it. Leviathan flew like a demon, slamming through smaller cruisers, absorbing plasma like a star made of steel. Every hit brought us closer to the core of the Viral. We launched the payload, a singularity torpedo wrapped in a shell of dark matter and hate, experimental, unstable, illegal in every galactic treaty we'd never signed. It struck the Viral's orb and the universe broke. For 3 seconds there was no sound, no color, just static in our brains and blood in our eyes. Reality twisted, and for a split second I saw something inside the Viral. Not a weapon, not a ship, a being, wired into the ship, eyes open, human-shaped, tortured, not alive, not dead. It looked like us, and it screamed. The Eliari hadn't just tried to impress us, they'd studied us, used us. Someone from Earth, someone they'd taken, then, boom. The Viral cracked open like an egg. Light poured out of it. White, blinding, beautiful. The shockwave killed 20% of both fleets, Eliari and human. But Leviathan held. We held, and then came silence. For the first time in this war, the Eliari retreated. We thought we won. The Viral was gone. The Eliari fleet scattered. Earth was safe, for now. But silence doesn't always mean peace. Sometimes it means calculation. Leviathan limped back to Sol orbit. Half our systems fried. Half the crew injured or gone. I had burns across my left side. Commander Raffi was dead, vaporized during the singularity burst. And deep in Leviathan's black box, our AI scraped through the final frames of the Viral explosion. We found it again. That thing inside the ship, humanoid. Suspended in some kind of energy web. Biological markers matched Earth's genetic structure, but mutated, enhanced, altered beyond recognition. As if someone had spliced a human with Eliari tech and pumped it full of raw star energy. We didn't know how to process that until we got a message. It didn't come from Earth or any known system. It came from what was left of the Vireal, a transmission encoded in human syntax, buried deep inside a dying signal. Not an alien voice, a human one. My name is Lieutenant Arjun Hale, UNS Explorer Corps. Captured 37 Earth years ago. They used me. They used us. If this reaches Earth, tell them I never broke. A man we thought was dead. Missing from one of Earth's earliest exploration missions, declared lost in deep space. The Aeliari had found him, broken him, turned him into a weapon, or tried to. He had fought back, and in the end he brought the Viral down from the inside. But it wasn't over. The Aeliari weren't gone, they'd just recoiled. Rebuilding, regrouping. They weren't gods. They weren't invincible. But they were still a superpower, and we'd just painted a target on every human alive. That's when the message came, not from the Aeliari but from the Velmari Ascendancy, the same empire that once dismissed us as unstable savages. Their ambassador bowed. You are no longer unknown, you are no longer primitive, you are volatile. We will not interfere with Earth again, but know this, the galaxy is watching, and it is afraid. We weren't allies, we weren't enemies. We were uncategorized, unknown variables. That same week, the Torcan Syndicate offered us membership in the Galactic Council, not out of respect, out of survival. If you couldn't beat Earth, you sure as hell wanted to be on its side. Back on Earth, there were parades, statues, celebrations. Kids wore Leviathan t-shirts. Cities lit up with holograms of our battleships. But those of us who fought, we didn't cheer, because we'd seen the truth. The Aeliari didn't fear our technology. They feared our mindset. We don't back down. We don't surrender. We burn, through pain and build from wreckage. And most dangerously of all, as we learn, we're already retrofitting Viral tech into our ships, we're already building Leviathan 2, and we're already preparing. Because this wasn't the war. This was the first test. Galaxy filled with old empires and ancient peace treaties had just witnessed something they never expected. Humanity standing tall, screaming into the void with bloodied fists and battered steel. We're not here to impress you. We're here to outlast you. So if they come again, and they will, we won't be waiting with open hands, we'll be waiting with battleships,